Visit ZeroResMinnesota.com to schedule your appointment today. With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Sunshine with a high of 67 today, then clear tonight with a low of 42. There's no better time than now to experience the new Maggie's Lounge at Crooner's Supper Club. Serving up light fare and cocktails, no concert ticket is required. Crooner's Supper Club, just north of 694 off Highway 65 in Fridley. CroonersMN.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Good morning, and welcome to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm glad you've made the connection with us and are with us today. I'm Laurie Fitz, your host, and the goal of our show is to explore a wide range of topics that challenge us to see ourselves, our community, and the world around us in ways that get us talking, get us thinking, get us out there doing something about it. And we do that because we've made that connection. So, as you know, our show is really all about ideas, and we're the only country in the world that was founded on an idea of equality. We hold these truths to be self-evident that we are created equal, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that amongst these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted to derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. That's us. We need to be consenting to our leaders and endorsing and voting for our leaders. And we have a responsibility in our democracy to build the community that we want. We want people who will tell us the truth, that are approachable, that get things done, that listen to us and help us understand and represent us. So I'm going to be encouraging you throughout the show to be thinking about voting. The guests I have today may not be in your district, but my guess is that you know someone that does live in their district. So listen hard, because you're going to be telling your friends about these people that are great. They are each extraordinary and deserving of their community vote. They're women who know how to get things done. They also know a thing or two about fighting for equality. And if we are a country that is about equality and all of us are created equal, these are great equalizers to help make important things happen in our community. So we'll be talking about the economy, we'll be talking about public safety, reproductive rights, education, and I'm pleased to have join us on our show today women who are running for Minnesota State representation, and who will be representatives. They are Caitlin Cahill, who's running for District 37A, Bonnie Westland, who's running for District 42, and current Representative Patty Acom, who is running for District 45B. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks for having us.
So what I'd love to do is start us off with is have each of you go around, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I was hearing some wonderful door knocking stories. And this is the time of year where you're going to be seeing people out there door knocking, especially in these last 10 days. We're going to be door knocking. So I'd love to hear just a great story about that, as well as who you are. My listeners love to get to know people and your story. So I'm going to start with Representative Patty Acom.
Well, good morning, Laurie, and thank you so much for having me this morning. I'm Representative Patty Acom, running for re-election for House District 45B. And I will say, I was born in Minnetonka, graduated from Hopkins High School. My husband and I decided to come back to this community when our kids were starting school, because it is such a great place to raise a family. My kids are now graduating from college, and so I've lived in this community a long time. I feel like I was raised by this community, and I'm honored to be representing this community in the state legislature. My background is in natural resources. I'm a wildlife biologist, and so the environment is so important to me, and protecting it for future generations is one of the things I work on most at the Capitol. So that's, a little bit about me. We'll get into some of these important topics, but as a door knocking story, I will say that one of my favorites that happened just recently came when I was knocking on a door, and this gentleman shared with me that he was an immigrant to the United States, and he has lived in many countries around the world. And never before has he had an elected representative knock on his door and ask him his opinion and talk to him about his ideas. And so he said, I'm just blown away by this. And he just felt so honored that somebody would take the time to do that. And it made me really realize this is why I do this work. This is why this is important. So that hit home for me and keeps me going in these last days.
Wonderful. Caitlin Cahill, District 37A, and full disclosure, I live in your district.
Yes, no pressure having a voter interview me, but thank you. Door knocking, exactly that, interviewing every day. So like Patty, I grew up in the area. I grew up in Plymouth, and I actually headed off to DC intent on pursuing a career in public policy. But it took about one semester of DC politics to completely turn me away from politics. And instead, I went into IT for our local schools. I'm currently a small business owner. I run my IT business in Maple Plain, where I'm also a city council member. And working at the local level really kind of restored my faith in that we can actually do good work when we kind of take out that partisan extremism. And so my good door knocking story is I met a woman this week who had never voted before due to a felony conviction. And she asked me, she said, do you think I should vote? And of course I said, absolutely. We talked about some of the things that she was concerned about and things that mattered to her and how that she could affect those things by voicing her opinion for representatives that would match those values. So whether you're a new voter or been voting for decades, every election's important up and down the ballot.
And Bonnie Westland, District 42.
That is right. Excuse me. Senate District 42 includes Plymouth, one precinct in Southwest Maple Grove, and the beautiful city of Medicine Lake. So I've been a single mother most of my adult life. I have two wonderful adult children. I have two grandchildren who are the apple of my eye. And I actually became involved in politics when I was 17. I went to my first precinct caucus, and sitting in a room full of people who were there spending the night talking about the issues of the day just really showed me that we matter in forming the government that we want. I am an attorney and a mediator. I do family law. I spend my days trying to help people come together and resolve their problems in an amicable way that involves compromise and seeing problems creatively and coming up with creative solutions. I have put myself through law school. I have the student loans to show it. And I guess my door knocking story, I think that is sort of emblematic of what I've just shared, is that I knocked on the door of a gentleman who said, well, I usually vote Republican. We had a lovely conversation. He asked me questions and he said, you are actually the first person that's ever knocked on my door. Nobody had ever knocked on his door before. No candidate had before. And at the close of the conversation, I just said, well, I appreciate the fact that you and I have been able to talk about these issues and that we may disagree on some of them, but we've had a fruitful, friendly, civil conversation. Let's have more of that.
And I think the world is hungry for that. And it starts in the community. It starts being able to do it at a doorstep and connect. And of course, I love connections, but it's a deeper connection that allows people to feel trust and to take risks and to believe and to make their choice for who they best feel represents who they are. And it may be a different party. I think we have quite a few Republicans that are listening deeply to what Democrats have to say because there's a reasonableness, there's a business sense. Caitlin, tell us your communities that you are running for.
So I am running in 37A, it runs from the western part of Maple Grove, so west of 94, all the way down through Medina and Loretto, Maple Plain, Independence, and then also up through Greenfield and Corcoran.
And Patty, I know you've got Wayzata and down. So.
Right. I'll be representing the northern part of Minnetonka, Highway 7 and north, Wayzata, Woodland, Deep Haven, and a little sliver of Shorewood.
So if you know people, and I know you do, in these communities, let them know about these wonderful women that are running for our state representatives. I don't know why I'm having hard with that time with that word today. Anyway, economy. That's the thing that we're hearing a lot about. We went through a pandemic. The world shut down. But we've got jobs. We've got incredible jobs out there. Minnesota is strong. We had a surplus because we're strong, and great kudos to Governor Walz that navigated through this craziness. But it's a question that comes up a lot. And Patty, I'd love to have you start off the conversation about what you think is most important in looking at our economy.
Sure. I think this is such an important issue and impacts all of us. And I hear about it a lot in talking with voters and with people in the community. And we're all feeling it, whether it's at the grocery store, the gas station, or utility bills. We are feeling the impacts of higher costs on our personal budgets. And so, while oftentimes these costs are impacted by our global economy, Minnesota is really sitting in a great place to be able to help respond to people's needs. And so, you talked about the surplus, Laurie, and we are fortunate in Minnesota to be having this surplus. And I was really proud to be supportive of the budget framework that Governor Walz, Speaker Hortman, as well as Majority Leader Jeremy Miller all agreed upon to put $4 billion towards tax cuts, including eliminating tax on Social Security, providing property tax relief, renters credits, and childcare, providing investments in important things that impact really all of us around education, health and human services, including long-term care, and also providing additional funding to public safety, and then leaving some on the bottom line, knowing that we don't know what's going on in the economy and that we need to be prepared to be able to continue to help people as we move forward.
And thank you for your service in helping to make those things happen, State Representative.
Well, it's certainly been a pleasure, and there's so much important work yet to do.
Caitlin, I know you have some strong feelings as well.
We see families who are having their personal finances impacted by these high prices. But we're not seeing is the large corporations being held responsible for their role in these raising prices. So we're coming to see that, there was just a report released yesterday in the Star Tribune showing how our gas companies have made record-breaking profits in the billions. We've had CEOs on shareholder calls saying that people are primed for these price increases due to the pandemic because there were, supply shortages. So they're taking advantage of our families right now and raising prices faster than their own costs are raising. And so we have to be able to pass legislation to make sure that our largest corporations are responsible and keep costs down for our family and paying their fair share.
Their fair share and keeping the cost. Gouging is not fair.
Yeah, exactly. and it affects our smallest businesses too. So,
absolutely. Yep. Bonnie, what's your take on the economy?
Well, I think it encompasses a lot of things. And so as we need to be looking at how we can reduce costs and reduce prices for our working people and our working family in our state, part of that is looking at how we can have affordable health care. Right now, I'm a small business owner, so I have to buy insurance in the marketplace, and it ain't cheap. And I just got the bill for what it will be next year, and it's going up, $70 a month for health insurance. We have people rationing health insurance, self-rationing, because they are afraid of what the doctor bill will be.
And that can be disastrous.
It can be.
I know
absolutely.
of people that have tried to reduce their insulin, thinking it'll go longer. I mean, that's just reducing your lifespan.
So we need affordable health care. We need to have livable wages. We need to make sure that people have affordable childcare. People can't go to work and do their job and earn a living if they don't have an affordable and safe place to put their kids. And we need to make sure we're paying our childcare workers an appropriate salary as well. So, all of these things go into having a thriving economy that works for everyone, white, black, or brown.
I think sometimes what happens is get reduced down to the price of milk. An economy is so much more complicated than the price of milk, and the price of milk is complicated. So it is something that we're aware of. There's inflation, but we've weathered inflation before in this country, and we've weathered inflation in a much tougher place. I'm very proud that we have as many people working that we do, and we have not had that. And I appreciate all of your strong efforts to build our economy. Women do a good job with that. We like to make sure that our community is thriving, and I think you all have wonderful ideas to help make that happen. I do have to go to break, but I want to let our listeners know that we're going to continue this conversation. We'll be talking about public safety in the next segment. We may get to another one, but I think public safety will be the primary focus in our next segment. So stay with us. We'll be right back after just a few short commercials.
There really is no place like home. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Home Health. When you're faced with an illness or an injury, being able to stay at home and receive care is important. Our home health offers a wide range of services, including skilled nursing, physical, occupational, and speech therapies, aides, homemakers, in-home respite care, and 24/7 live-in care. We'll work closely with your primary care provider to come up with an individualized plan for you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
This is New Beginnings, hosted by award-winning broadcaster and speaker Freddie Bell.
Freddie, this generation of the baby boomers, people are living longer, so the baby boomers are taking care of elderly parents.
Let's talk about your health, and specifically, let's talk about Medicare. Our show features the concerns of America's 78 million baby boomers in employment, finance, health and nutrition, and even entertainment.
Join us for New Beginnings, Saturday mornings at 11, brought to you in part by Vision Loss Resources.
Located just north of 50th and France, the Great Wall Restaurant has provided a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking dishes, they offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include hot and sour soup, pan-fried dumplings, and mushu pork with homemade Chinese pancakes. Stop by their Edina location or call for takeout at 952-927-4439. See the full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Hi, this is Paul Metza. Thanks for listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour for the last 5 years on AM 950. We air every Saturday night at 6 p.m. We have artists, musicians, private detectives, politicians, and more. On AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
If you're looking to save money on your home or building improvement project, check out Better Futures Minnesota's reuse retail warehouse in South Minneapolis. We carry salvage building materials such as cabinetry, flooring, plumbing fixtures, appliances, lighting, and more, saving you money and saving the planet by keeping these items out of the landfill, by giving them another life. Selections change daily, and we also take donations. Go to betterfuturesminnesota.com and look under Reuse Warehouse to learn more. Let us know AM 950 sent you.
Tune in for Philosophy Talk, a program that questions everything
except your intelligence.
Coming up, philosophy and the superhero.
Aren't superhero comics just the perfect vehicle for philosophical thinking?
Maybe, if you like simple stories about good and evil.
No, but they also make us think about other philosophical questions, like the nature of space and time.
Holy metaphysics, Batman!
Philosophy and the superhero. Next time on Philosophy Talk.
Philosophy Talk, every Sunday at 8 a.m. on AM 950.
Welcome back to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. And today we are having the privilege to meet with tremendous women who are running for state representatives. This show was paid for by Congressional District 3 DFL, and we're very appreciative of their support. The three women that I have today are going to introduce themselves and the areas that they will be serving. We'll start with Representative Patty Acom.
Hi, Representative Patty Acom here, running to represent the northern half of Minnetonka, Wayzata, Woodland, Deep Haven, and a little bit of Shorewood.
And Caitlin Cahill.
I'm running for 37A, which is Greenfield, Corcoran, the western part of Maple Grove, Medina, Loretto, Maple Plain, and Independence.
And Bonnie Westland.
I am running for state senate in Senate District 42, which is Plymouth, and one precinct in Maple Grove, and the beautiful city of Medicine Lake.
We've had a great conversation last segment. They shared a little bit about some great door knocking stories, as well as how we can look at the economy and what changes we can make and what support we can do to continue the good work that Minnesota is doing to create a strong and vibrant community. Let's talk about public safety. Everyone deserves to feel safe. Bonnie, I'd love to have you lead off on your ideas on why and how this is important and what you see as ways to help make our community safer.
Absolutely. And I know my colleagues here will be discussing various points of this as well. I think it's just important that we understand there's a difference between talking about public safety and doing something about it. One of the things that we should be doing something about is gun violence. And I have been active in the gun violence prevention community for many years. My best friend died by suicide in 1991. and had access to not just one gun, but over the course of a period of a few years, he was able to access 2 guns, and one of which he used to take his life. We know for a fact that extreme risk protection orders are helpful. We just saw what happened in St. Louis. This young man was denied an AR-15, but then he was able to get it without a background check from a private sale. We know that expanded background checks help. And so while those 2 things are not necessarily the be all end all, it's not going to end all gun violence. We know that states that have adopted those things have seen significant reductions in gun violence and gun deaths. And we know that states that have no laws, the open carry and some of the other things, have some of the highest levels of gun violence. And so this is absolutely something we can do something about. We should do something about. But this is a situation where good bills go to die in the Senate. We know that these measures have come up in the past, and the Republican Senate won't even give hearing to them. So it's very important.
Patty.
Well, I will say, as a member of the DFL House, we strongly supported those provisions, and I was proud to be able to vote for them. As a current member of the House and a former member of the Minnetonka City Council, I think it's really important, both at the local and the state level, that we fully fund our public safety. And in order to do that, we do need to take action, and we need to ensure our law enforcement officers have the tools and training they need to be able to respond to calls today. And I will say, along with voting to support gun violence prevention in the DFL-controlled Minnesota House, we recognize the importance of public safety and that our communities need to respond to that. So in this past session, we passed a bill off the House floor that would give an additional $100 million to local community public safety all around the state. And I will say that not one Republican voted to support that bill, to add $100 million over base to our communities and allowing those communities to use that money in the way that best supported those communities, not dictating how it was to be used, but to allow for local control. And so I think that, I'm disappointed that didn't pass. I was hopeful that there would potentially be a special session this summer. Unfortunately, that didn't come to happen either. So I don't know if it was party politics that was getting in the way of this or what, but when we talk about community safety and public safety, we need to be able to take actions that will actually put the tools in the hands of communities and officers to be able to provide it as well. So I'm proud to have been able to support that.
Caitlin.
A lot of the conversation around public safety centers around law enforcement, which is an important part of the conversation. We definitely need intervention through community policing as well as accountability for people who do commit crimes. But trying to reduce crime through sentencing and accountability is like going to the ER for stage 4 cancer. It's too late and it's the wrong treatment. If we actually want to reduce crime, we have to prevent crime. Most crimes we have come from economic insecurity. So people, for example, we've had people stealing baby formula because it's too expensive. We have people who can't afford rent. And so they live on the streets and then they have to, they can't get a job. And so then they have to, do different things. And so by supporting people, that's how we prevent crime. So yes, policing is important. Yes, accountability is important, but let's look at how we prevent crime in the first place.
Prevention so it doesn't escalate.
Yes.
Because we do know that there can be, once a crime is committed, it can escalate to the next and the next.
Absolutely. Yep.
And we also know it's important to get guns off the street. And we also know it's important to invest in our community so that the community can make the best decisions for their own public safety. Good women with good ideas. We will take a break. Again, many thanks to our Congressional District 3 DFL that paid for this show. We appreciate their support, and we appreciate these women coming and sharing great ideas to make a difference.
This is the Being Curious Show. I'm Brian Mariani, founder of No Shift Own.
And I'm Kelly Wagner, publisher of Edge Magazine. Our show is about curiously connecting teachers and seekers on a wide range of topics in a safe space.
And our intention is that these conversations spark your own curiosity that creates a life that totally lights you up.
We are on AM 950, Sundays at 2 p.m. and all podcast platforms. See you soon and stay curious.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067 or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
I'm Candy Brothel, publisher of the Twin Cities edition of Natural Awakenings magazine and host of Green Tea Conversations, a new show for people who are on a journey to take responsibility for their health and play a more active role in their family's well-being. Join me every Sunday at 10 a.m. as I interview local experts who share the latest in natural holistic approaches in a fun and informative way. So grab a cup of tea and join the conversation as we awaken to natural health. Visit us at naturaltwincities.com.
Hey, Cudahy, this is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. On our show, we talk about Native issues like treaties, protecting Mother Earth, and holding our elected officials accountable. Weekly correspondents like Dr. Stately, State Senator Mary Kunesh, Robert Lilligren, and Bob Blake update us with Native news that you won't hear anywhere else. Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Listen weeknights from 6 to 7 p.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. Even though Auto Technical is a small nonprofit, we have helped more families with transportation than any organization in Minnesota. Since '94, we have reconditioned donated vehicles so they have a higher tax benefit. Call Richard at 612-919-5526. 612-919-5526 or autotech.org.
Hey, Minnesota, I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, and I want to hear from you. Call in, be heard at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425 as we focus on the issues most important to working America. The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk. Weeknights, 8 to 10 p.m. right here on AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Sunshine with a high of 67 today, then clear tonight with a low of 42. There's no better time than now to experience the new Maggie's Lounge at Crooner's Supper Club. Serving up light fare and cocktails, no concert ticket is required. Crooner's Supper Club, just north of 694 off Highway 65 in Fridley. CroonersMN.com.
AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Welcome back to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. Our show today was paid for by the Congressional District 3 DFL, and we are bringing together three wonderful, strong women leaders who are talking about how to make a difference in our community and how our vote can help make their work possible. And I am asking for your vote for each of these. Now, you may say to yourself, well, I don't live in that district. My guess is that you do know someone who does live in their district. And I ask you to take notes on what they have to say and share with those voters about how important these women are to be in our state representatives, to be our state representatives. I'm going to start with Representative Patty Acom. Share with us what communities that you will be serving.
Minnetonka, Wayzata, Deep Haven, Woodland, and a little bit of Shorewood.
Bonnie Westland, what communities will you be serving?
This will be Senate District 42, and it is Plymouth, Maple Grove, and Medicine Lake.
Caitlin Cahill.
I'm running in House District 37A, which is the western part of Maple Grove, Medina, Independence, Loretto, Maple Plain, Greenfield, and Corcoran.
We're going to talk about reproductive rights in this segment. We all have the right to make our own health decisions, but that could be in jeopardy. And I would love to hear each of your points of view about how we can make this real and powerful and change the course to make sure that all of us have the right to make our own health choices. And I'm going to start with Caitlin.
Well, with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, obviously abortion rights have been a huge topic this year. And it may seem like a pretty narrow topic, but when you think about it, the right to control our own bodies is actually our most fundamental freedom. It's just being able to control who we are and what we do. And so I think reproductive freedom is just that. It's about bodily autonomy and the right to make our own medical decisions. It's about our choice to control our own bodies. And so it's much larger than just abortion care. But abortion care in and of itself is also very important. And some will say that, well, it's not an issue in Minnesota because it's protected constitutionally. But it's actually not anywhere in the Constitution. It's protected by case law, Doe v. Gomez, just like Roe v. Wade was. So it could be overturned just as easily.
Bonnie, tell me what you think.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, I think the Republicans have been very transparent about their intentions, although they have tried to be less transparent during this campaign cycle. But it is in their GOP platform. Their intention is to ban abortions in Minnesota. So we should be very clear about that.
And it's been their intention for decades.
They have had a strategy that they have followed with precision. So, you know, and I think that people need to look at this from the standpoint that someone you love may require abortion care at some point in their life. This affects potentially so many people, and it is absolutely imperative that we maintain safe, legal access to abortion in the state of Minnesota. And right now, Minnesota is also going to be the only state nearby that provides abortion care for many, many people. So
we're really fighting for our region.
Absolutely.
And the challenge of that also is, I think there's an idea that it's just women who haven't gotten married and made a mistake. Well, if that's it, that's fine. That still is their decision. But it also impacts a lot of other women who have tough decisions to make, and their life is on the line.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart that we lump all of it into a moral judgment versus what the needs are of someone's health.
Can I just say one more thing? Why someone chooses to get an abortion is absolutely nobody's business. And what has been so heartbreaking, however, is that women in particular have felt the need to share their traumatic stories to show people why this is so important.
Justify.
And people should not have to parade their trauma.
Well, it re-traumatizes, but they're doing it to be brave and to say, this is why it's important. And I send kudos to all the women who have stood up and said, this is important and why it's important. Patty.
Well, I will just, share many of the thoughts that have already been shared, but I think this is such a deeply personal decision that should be between a person and their doctor. And as a political official or as an elected official, I should have no voice in that conversation. And so the fact that we're having to do this today is in 2022 that we're rehashing this is frightening. 70% of Minnesotans support having access to abortion. And yet, as a sitting legislator, we have had to quash bills or amendments that have tried to restrict access to abortion. So if we think that just because it is currently available in Minnesota, that it's going to stay that way, that's just absolutely not true. If the Republicans have control of the legislature and the governor's office, it absolutely access will be limited and there will be restrictions beyond what we have today. And so when I'm out knocking on doors and talking to oftentimes Republican women, they're surprised that we are at this place today. How did this happen? And as Bonnie pointed out earlier, this has been a strategy that has been well thought out and long planned. And we also know they're not going to stop here. There are other rights that they are looking to take take away at as well. So this is worth protecting. This is worth fighting for. And I will continue to do that as a state legislator.
I think some women feel uncomfortable talking about it.
Absolutely.
Because it is a divisive issue and it is a heartfelt issue. I personally believe nobody wants to have an abortion. They have choices that allow them to make their life possible. And it is heart-wrenching, and it's not something that we should judge, and it's not something that we should take away. Everyone should have the right to pursue their life, liberty, and happiness. And it is their choice. The challenge I think that we face, because a lot of people don't want to talk about it, is I don't know if we really know how many women are empowered to go out and make the vote on this. I don't think the polls are showing how strong many people feel about this. I know where my voice reaches. If there's a woman out there, you know, in your heart of hearts, that everyone should have their own choice. If your choice is not to have an abortion, that is your choice. But to take away that right from another woman who you don't know what their circumstances are, what they can afford, what they can do, what their health is unconscionable. And I will just put it out there. We need to support women, and we need to support the choices they make. When you are in office, what will you do to help make that happen? What specifically do you want to do to assure that women have that choice? And I will start with you, Patty.
Oh, golly.
Yeah.
Well, I will continue to support and prevent, honestly, restrictions being added. And there are amendments that are brought up in committee as well as on the House floor every year that have tried, and we have been very successful in preventing them from being added on. So I will, we have access today, and I'm proud that we do, and I will continue to support that, and I will prevent restrictions from being added.
Caitlin, what will you do, and what do you suggest women do to help support this?
Well, I would definitely support codifying the right to make our own medical decisions into our constitution so that it's protected no matter what medical choice we're talking about. And I think not just women, but everyone knows someone who is affected by this issue. And so I think everyone needs to stand up and say, we do not support the government intervening in our medical decisions. They need to talk to their current representatives, and they need to show up on election day and vote.
And Bonnie.
Yeah, and we actually do have some restrictions on access to abortion in our state, and I think that we would look at trying to overturn some of those. It is absolutely imperative that every woman or person who needs access to abortion care has a right to it.
I'm going to move us down to education, and thank you for each of your hard work that you will be doing to help make this possible for us. Public education. We've had challenging last few years, especially with COVID. Some students feel set back. We're in a different place trying to figure out how do we move forward with education. And I'd love to have us talk about the preschool, technical education, and higher education. And Representative Acom, I'll have you start first and tell us a little bit about your feelings about preschool.
Well, first, I will just say public dollars should go to public schools. And that's something I feel very strongly about. And when we talk about preschool, we know full well that every dollar invested in preschool will pay dividends down the road, saving $16 in costs down the road. And so important that we invest in preschool. And I will say, when my children were born, we lived in northern Minnesota in a rural community. And our kids participated in early childhood family education through our public school district. And through that, issues that my kids had around speech and even vision issues were caught early and addressed through early childhood education. And so there's just so many ways that these programs can help benefit our families and our children long term. So I'm a firm believer that we need to invest strongly in preschool and early childhood education.
Caitlin, I know you feel very strongly about technical education.
Yeah, I'm here where I am today because of my own technical education in high school. What we're seeing now is a workforce shortage across the economy, but especially in the skilled trades. So plumbing, electricians. And part of it's not because there's not a demand for these jobs, but because we are closing programs at the post-secondary level because kids in high school don't know that these are great jobs for them to go into. And so because of lack of enrollment, we're closing it at the college level, which further reduces the pathways into these careers. So I would strongly support getting our CTE programs back into our high schools and even requiring it, as every student should be exposed to this and take a class in CTE before they graduate.
Bonnie, I know that it's very important for you for higher education.
Absolutely. So I was a single parent. My mother was a single parent. We didn't have a lot of resources. I put myself through school primarily through student loans. I graduated with $100,000 in student loans at 9% interest in 1995. And so I'm very familiar with the challenges faced by our young people and by non-traditional students going back to school to try to make a better life for themselves and their kids. There was a time, as I understand it, that we shot for having families be responsible for about a third of the cost and the educational institution for about 2/3 of the cost. We've actually flipped that. So we have to make it affordable. We should be providing incentives for people to go into education, for people to go into STEM jobs and so on. And we can do that by making sure not only that it's affordable, but providing loan forgiveness. We are seeing teachers leave the profession, our nurses, we need to be incentivizing people to go into the healthcare field. And again, the impediment often for folks is that it's unaffordable. So we absolutely have to make sure we are investing in our higher education so that people are not burdened with loans for the rest of their life.
And education really elevates a community. It allows the possibilities. It allows for opportunity. So thank you. Thank you for each of you sharing your insights, your strengths, your passions. And we will be right back after a few short announcements. I do want to do a special thank you. This show was paid for by Congressional District 3DFL to bring these insightful, smart women with leadership ideas that'll make a difference. We'll be right back.
Next Chapter Booksellers has lots of new books in stock just in time for fall. And while we're sad to see summer go, the colder weather does make better reading weather. So stop by the store off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul. Browse the shelves, or if you're not sure what to get, ask a friendly bookseller. We're great at making recommendations no matter your taste. Next Chapter Booksellers also has a wide variety of puzzles, games, and even some early holiday shopping gift ideas. That's the independently owned Next Chapter Booksellers in St. Paul.
Do yourself a favor and check out the amazing cuisine of eatlocalminnesota.com. More than just a website, eatlocalminnesota.com provides you with the best local and independently owned restaurants in the Twin Cities. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking cuisine, the Great Wall Chinese restaurant has been a local favorite since 1981. They offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include the sesame chicken, imperial beef, and Peking duck. The Great Wall restaurant is located off 45th and France, with takeout available too. More at greatwallrestaurant.us. The next time you're out in South Minneapolis, make Nightingale off 26th and Lyndale your go-to dining option. It's a comfortable neighborhood restaurant that features a delicious menu of American classics, plus a wide drink and cocktail selection. Nightingale has dining room and bar seating available, plus takeout and delivery. Current hours are 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. daily with the full menu until midnight. More at nightingalempls.com.
The Electric Fetus is having a store-wide Halloween sale now through October 30th. Take 20% off almost everything in the store, including new and used vinyl, CDs and DVDs, clothing, books, incense, Electric Fetus t-shirts, hoodies, pint glasses, and more. Some restrictions apply. The store is open 10 to 6 Tuesdays through Saturdays and 11 to 6 on Sundays, and closed on Mondays. The Electric Fetus is located just south of downtown Minneapolis at 2000 South 4th Avenue. More info at electricfetus.com.
Hi, this is Chad from AM 950. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the metro. Ryan is so excited about working with AM 950 and our listeners that he wants to help us grow.
This is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. I was friends with Chad long before I started marketing with him. I was a bit skeptical of radio advertising before Chad convinced us to run ads. The advertising's been so successful, we want to help the station grow. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners of AM 950, and we all know how extremely important this radio station is to the community. To help AM 950 grow, Snap Construction will be putting up proceeds to assist the station in marketing on social media. Snap Construction encourages you to follow, engage, share, and interact on the AM 950 social media platforms. Together, we can all work to ensure AM 950 continues to thrive and grow in our communities. We stand by our work with a lifetime craftsmanship guarantee. For a free estimate or more information on our financing, call 612-333-SNAP or check us out online.
Welcome back to Connections Radio Show, where we have had a wonderful conversation with state representatives or folks running for state representatives, and will soon be, in my mind, our new state representatives for various districts. Representative Patty Acom has been our representative and is now running for District 45B. We have Bonnie Westland, who's running for District 42, and we have Caitlin Cahill running for District 37A. I do want to do a special thank you that this show was paid for by the Congressional District 3 DFL. I'm going to have you go around and once again share where communities you will be the state representatives when we vote you in. I want you all to listen for those communities and think about people you know. It might be yourself that live in there. If not, think of folks that you can give a call to and say, hey, heard these gals on the radio. They are wonderful. They're smart. They're good leaders, and we want them as our state representatives. We'll start with Representative Patty Acom.
Thanks, Laurie. I'll be representing Northern Minnetonka, Wayzata, Woodland, Deep Haven, and a little bit of Shorewood.
Bonnie Westland.
Senate District 42, which is Plymouth, Southwest Maple Grove, and Medicine Lake.
And Caitlin, I know it's a long one. Caitlin Cahill, give us a list of all of them.
Every time. No,
Yeah.
Western Hennepin, which is Western Maple Grove down through Medina, Loretto, Independence, Maple Plain, Greenfield, and Corcoran.
We've had a great conversation today on the economy, on public safety, on reproductive rights, on education. If you've missed and you've just joined us, you can go back and actually listen to the full podcast by going to am950radio.com. We're going to have a conversation about climate now, something that our world is changing. And if we don't figure out how to fix it, we won't have a world anymore. So this is powerful stuff and important for us to be thinking about and have good leaders that can help make a difference. I'm going to start this conversation on our climate with Representative Acom.
Well, thanks, Laurie. I do think this is one of a really important issue and one I'm passionate about for sure. As I said, my background is in natural resources, and so climate change certainly impacts that. And I am chair of the House Climate Action Caucus in the legislature, and so this is an issue that I work on quite a bit at the legislature. And I will start out by saying that, Minnesotans value our environment, and that has been proven time and again by their willingness to even tax themselves and pass referendums to invest in protecting our environment. And I've lived in Minnesota all my life, and I'm not a spring chicken, so it's been a while. And we can see our weather changing before our very eyes. And Minnesota happens to be the state whose winters are warming quicker than any state in the lower 48, and that's problematic to our environment. That impacts our wildlife, our lakes. If we don't change what we're doing, loons will no longer be able to reproduce in Minnesota. They will fly through and keep on going toward Canada. And so I know these are things that Minnesotans value, and there are strategies that we know can help. And there are strategies that have multiple benefits, like renewable energy, for example, is a great way that not only can we use less carbon and fossil fuels, but it can save money. We can put solar on school buildings, and it can save schools money that they can put back into the classroom. And so there are so many strategies. That's just one that can provide multiple benefits. And I can go on. I could talk about this all day.
I love your passion, and I'm with you completely. We need to make sure that we have the beauty of Minnesota that we've always cherished. Caitlin, I look at you and I look to the future. I know this is important to you.
Yep. We know that one of the most important things we can do to prevent climate change is to work on reducing emissions. And the biggest thing we can do is through transportation. But we also have to make sure as we transition to electric vehicles that electricity that's powering these vehicles is also clean and also through renewable energy. We actually have a lot of renewable energy here in Minnesota. Over 50% of our energy is clean, and about over half of that is from renewables. The problem is our power grid is not up to standard. So we actually have wind farms in southern Minnesota that have to power down because they're producing too much electricity. So this myth that, when the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow, we don't have electricity. We actually have more than we can use. So we've got to get our power grid up to standard so we can use this renewable.
How we can utilize the power that we have.
Exactly.
Bonnie.
So I know Representative Acom and Representative Jamie Long both work tirelessly on this issue. And I know this last session because I sat in on a meeting where you both talked about what you were trying to do in the legislature. Again, this is another case where good bills go to die in the Senate. And it included this idea that we should have a climate master plan. I remember you guys talking about that we look into the changing climate, that we have a roadmap for our future and what we need to do. We know that the drought that we're experiencing in our state is a result of climate change. So we need to be focusing on how to support our family farms and how we can help them farm in sustainable ways. We need to look at transitioning to EVs, but we need to make sure we're building the infrastructure to support that. So new buildings, especially multi-unit housing, should have built-in EV charging stations and so on. And we want to incentivize people to do this by providing tax credits and so on. And so, I mean, there's so much that we can do. And I actually look forward to working with Representative Acom and Representative Long in the House and our colleagues in the Senate to finally do something about these issues.
I am inspired, and I am looking forward to having some change happen and taking our climate seriously. It's not that it hasn't been taken seriously, but I think we've just dragged our feet a little too long, and it's time to step to the plate and make some difference. We're coming to the end of the show. What I'd love to do now is just have each of you share asking for the vote and why you think it's important, and letting folks know their responsibility in the vote and how their vote can make a difference in the world that we want to build. I am going to start with Bonnie.
Thank you so much for allowing us to be here today to share our messages to your broader audience. Every year we say it's the most important election of your lifetime, and I'm fond of saying the last most important election of our lifetime was 2016, and that one we did not get right. It is absolutely imperative every single person turn out to vote in this midterm election. If we turn out our voters, we will make sure that we retain the governor's office. We will reelect Steve Simon, one of the best secretaries of state in the entire country. We will reelect Keith Ellison, who has done a fine job for the people of this state. We will reelect Julie Blaha, again, who has been an incredible auditor. And we need to provide our governor with a legislature that will support the people of the state and moving us forward instead of backwards.
Caitlin Cahill.
I would really just encourage people to look beyond party this year. You know, as a city council member, I've been blessed to be able to experience what can happen when we are nonpartisan. So look at people. Well, they represent people, not corporations, not PACs, not special interests. And so vote for those people who represent you.
And Representative Acom.
Well, thank you. I just think there is so much at stake, as Bonnie so eloquently put out. I think we need to go out and vote, and we need to use our vote as our voice to ensure that we protect our reproductive rights and that we protect our election security and that we protect our climate and our environment. There are so many things at stake. So I encourage people to go out and vote. And early voting has started now. So you can go out and vote today. Well, maybe not on Saturday. I think that on Monday you can, and then or election day at your polling place. But I encourage people to get out and use their voice this year.
So often we see the midterms being not as active because of the spotlight with the president. We need to be as active or more active in this midterm. We need to be able to hold on to our good democracy and democracy is at stake. And the Democrats are putting forth good arguments to make a difference in, as we've talked about, the economy, when it comes to public safety, when it comes to our reproductive rights, for education, and for climate. So thank you for your time today and listening in and being a part of the conversation. We've got an exciting 11 days. We started off the show talking about door knocking. Trust me, these women will be out and continuing to do their door knocking. Open the door for them. Talk to them. Have a good conversation. And invite others to have a conversation with you. This is the time that we need to exercise our rights and responsibility and get out the vote. You're part of the democracy. Keep it for us all.
Hi, I'm Mary T. of the Mary T.